What's up, everybody? I was reflecting with the new year as one is wont to do, and it sort of dawned on me. I ask myself the question every so often, like, if I could only play one game for the rest of my life, what would it be? And it's changed over the years. When I was much younger, it would have been like StarCraft, and then it would have been League of Legends. That version of me is wrong, by the way. They're banished. Then it would have been like Dota, maybe, at a point it would have been Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but right now I realize that the answer is Deadlock. And so it's sort of, I'm using it as a bit of a North Star to say, like, okay, Deadlock is something that I should be talking about more on the channel if it's something that I care about so much. But historically, when I make content, I think one of the things that drives me is I really like growing communities. I really like helping with the onboarding process. I like helping new players because I like sharing my hobbies with as many people as possible is kind of the perspective I come from. So I like to be something of a mentor, of an educator. There's just one problem, right? I'm really bad at Deadlock. When I started in January of this year, I was Seeker 1, and now I've climbed to a massive Seeker 3. Whoa, who is this guy, right? But jokes aside, I kind of wanted to talk about how it was that I was able to get from Seeker 1 up to Seeker 3, even though, I mean, it's nothing to write home about. It's not a massive improvement, but I do think it was intentional, and I think the results that I've been seeing have been really promising, so I just kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit. So when I decided to take this game a little bit more seriously, and I was very improvement oriented, one of the things I decided to do was I wanted to upload as much of my data to StatLocker as possible, because it's just a really nice place to get an overview of a lot of your different statistics. And I kind of had a couple of theories coming into this. I think my experience with MOBAs most recently has been as a position 1 in Dota. And if you're not familiar with position 1 in Dota, that is the positions are ordered by farm priority. So when you're position 1, you're the hard carry, you have the most farm priority, and a lot of your game is spent basically leaning into farming efficiency. How often can you take the ancient camps? How often can you be in lane pushing waves? And can you be like in another lane threatening to take a tower while the rest of your team is having a team fight? Because, whether the fight goes well or goes poorly, you're able to still take an objective, you're still getting a bunch of farm out of it. And if somebody does threaten to show up to, stop you, or if, 2 people threaten to show up to stop you, then that means the other 4 people are now doing a 4v4 or a 4v3. And that's kind of the dynamic there. So when I was playing Deadlock, I was playing a lot of these characters like Haze and Infernus and Seven, that could lean into this hard carry thing, that were really good at farming jungle camps, and I would lean into the fact that I was good at farm efficiency. But I kind of felt like there were a lot of times where my team would perform particularly poorly in the team fights, and by the time that I was ready to sort of enter the game, like I had a bunch of my items and I had farmed really efficiently and I was ahead on souls, it was just too late. I just didn't have the leverage to be able to actually carry a full game like that. And so since that was kind of my theory coming in, I was sort of looking over my stats and I saw things like my KDA ratio was particularly high, KD ratio, KDA ratio. My average deaths is particularly low, but average assists and like average kills and kill participation, these were all pretty low, and they were significantly lower when I started this, and average deaths and stuff was lower too. So on the one hand, you could say like, okay, that means your threat assessment is particularly good. Like, when to back off, you don't take risky plays, you don't die a lot, you don't feed a lot of kills. At the other side of the spectrum, it kind of means that, like, sure, I'm farming efficiently, but I'm not throwing my weight around enough. I'm not leveraging the points where I'm ahead. I'm not fighting with my team. I'm not being a playmaker. And so I made a really deliberate decision to switch off of the Infernus, the Seven, the Haze, and I know Lash is my most played character, but even Lash I tried to play like a position 1 hard carry to some extent, which is just not what he's built to do, and I think my win rate reflects that. But I moved over to Shiv, because if you know anything about Shiv's kit is very, very aggressive, right? So we can talk about his kit real quick in case you don't know, and I'll come over here to the sandbox. So what is it about Shiv that makes him perfect for this kind of adjustment? Well, the first thing I would say is that he kind of can't farm particularly well. He has a shotgun weapon, and you could lean into like a weapon-based build, but in general, that's just not the way that this character is played, he's not ever going to be as good as, like, again, the Haze, the 7, the Infernus at farming like that, right? But his abilities are really, really good for playing aggressively. So he's got this skill shot. The 1 is a dagger that he throws, and it does a bleed on people. That's pretty self-explanatory. His 2 is this dash that you can do really in all directions. So you can use it as a mobility tool to, like, get out of a situation. You can use it to engage, and it's particularly bursty, so it can help deal a lot of damage very, very quickly. His ultimate, his 4, is an execute. If you are coming from, like, League of Legends, think of a character like Darius. If you're coming from Dota, think of a character like Axe. If the character is below a certain % of life, then you can use the 4, you execute them, and boom. But the thing that really ties all of this together and makes him a very aggressive character, basically over the entire course of the game, is this this 3 right here, this passive, Bloodletting. So he, as a default, defers 25% of the incoming damage. And basically what that means is that if somebody deals, let's say they do an ability that would do 100 damage to me, I take 75 of the damage now, and then I take 25 of the damage over 6 seconds, right? So you're able to basically survive a lot of things and have a lot more mitigation than you otherwise would. He also has this, like, passive rage mechanic. So you notice that as I use these abilities, as I do damage to the target, you know, I punch him, I shoot him a couple of times, I use my ability. As I build this up, I get to these, like, full rage stacks. And when he has full rage, all of his abilities get better. So his dagger would ricochet to a second target that's nearby. His dash has a little after image that does a second dash after he does it, which is just a bunch more damage. And his Bloodletting actually defers an additional 15%. So now, you know, that same example, if there was an ability that would do 100 damage, now instead he takes 60 damage and he takes 40 of the damage over the next 6 seconds. The thing is that when he activates Bloodletting, so if I took a bunch of damage and then I push 3, it would clear 40% of the damage that is remaining. So, same example, let's say I'm in rage, take 100 damage, I take 60 now, there's 40 left over, I push the button, what's 40% of 40? I think 16 of the damage? This is, like, kind of a whack example, but the point is that he's able to defer a lot of the damage, and then by activating Bloodletting, he cancels out a lot of the deferred damage, right? So he's just way, way tankier at all stages of the game than another bursty, assassin-y character like him would ordinarily be. But the interesting thing is that while he has all this damage mitigation, he's not in the same, like, tank kind of category, right? Because when I think about a character like Abrams or a character like Kelvin, they deliberately bring CC. Like, Abrams can stun you up against a wall, he's got an ult that stuns everybody. Kelvin, you know, he can put a big orb around you, or he can slow you basically permanently. None of this is CC. This is all just damage and damage mitigation. So he kind of plays like this one-on-one skirmishy assassin type character, right? And so the build I've been using for him is this Sanguine Shiv. There are other ones, like, I know one of the higher, like, professional level ones that's recommended is this Together DL. And I think a lot of the time these are honestly probably better than what I'm doing, but this one really leans onto the knife. Like, you get Surge of Power and you imbue it on the knife. And I think this is going to do more damage overall if you are really on the ball, you're hitting every single knife. Restorative Shot, if you're using it every time it comes off cooldown on an enemy hero, then you're getting more restore back than you otherwise would be. But I think this Sanguine Shiv, for, like, the level that I'm at right now, is much better. You know, you don't have to be so mindful of the Restorative Shot. You just have extra regen, it helps you in lane. You know, you're not worried about hitting every single one because you've got other things. You've got, like, Torment and Pulse, which is, like, passive damage around you. You've got Cold Front, which is a no-brainer. You push 2, you dash in, you use Cold Front. Very self-explanatory. So this one has, like, less mental pressure, and, like, less that you have to think about going on, and I think that's been really working out for me. Another thing that has really helped me lately is the Deadlock Mod Manager. Specifically this HUDlock add-on. So this is a collection of, like, a bunch of different add-ons, but some of the things that it really does that helps you out a lot is, like, honestly, the most important thing to me are these timers up at the top, right? So This one on the right tells me that like, hey, the buffs are going to spawn in a minute 30, and this is just looking at the timer. It doesn't, like, we're not actually on a map with buffs, so this is irrelevant. But like in a match, it would tell you like, hey, you know, buffs are going to be up in so and so seconds. Hey, the mid boss is going to be up in so and so seconds. And this has been huge. Like just in my games, having this on and being able to call out to my team like, hey, you know, buffs are up in 15 seconds makes such a big difference, because the buffs are like majorly underrated. Like this survival buff, boom. Wait, why is it giving me fire rate? That's not right. 20 spirit power and 13 ability cooldown reduction. That's massive. That's massive. And like these, oh yeah, fire rate, because I guess that one was disguised as the gun buff. That makes a little bit more sense. This one give me fire rate right now. Yeah, but these buffs are massive and they last for so long. I guess when I hover this, it doesn't tell me, but there will be times where I take it and it feels like it's up for maybe like 4 of the 5 minutes that it takes for buffs to respawn. So if you are on the ball and like 2 players on your team are consistently snagging these as they spawn every time, it's just massive. And also having knowledge of when the mid boss is going to like spawn, yes, it spawns at 10 minutes, like I know that. But having knowledge of when it's going to respawn after it's been taken has been huge. There have been so many times where we're like pushing into the enemy base and people are kind of eager. They're like, no, let's just in. But it's not really there. Like they're going to be back up in a second. Like we're not so far ahead in souls that there's no risk involved. Like at that point, I can call out like, you know, hey, mid boss is back up in 20 seconds. Like, let's just back out and take it. Like, it's safer. And that has been enough to like convince people like, oh, okay, like if mid boss is back up in 20 seconds, then yeah, we can just back out. Just things like that are huge. And just to be clear, like these mods and add-ons are telling you things that you could intuitively know through playing the game. Like, you know, the runes spawn every 5 minutes. They spawn at the 5-minute mark. So like they'll spawn at 10, they'll spawn at 15, they'll spawn at 20. After the mid boss spawns, it goes on a cooldown. It's like a set amount of time. I actually don't remember what it is. But like these are things that you could know and you could intuit through playing the game. So this mod isn't giving me additional information that I wouldn't know. It's just making what's going on in the game more clear. And it makes it easier to remember these little things that like sometimes I forget about or forsake. And another thing is that at the MMR that I'm playing at down here, players in general are not putting enough emphasis on the center sacrifice. So they spawn at 8 minutes and they give the team a tremendous amount of souls and also stats if you're hitting the like timer that's on the 5th punch, I guess. But they're just not being abused. They're not being hit often enough, and there will be times where like, again, I'm Shiv, I really want to be running at the enemy team as much as possible and fighting them. But there will be times that, you know, I'm able to get like 2 or even 3 center sacrifices just because players on the enemy team aren't prioritizing them enough. I push up a wave, they don't want to fight me one-on-one, cool, I'll take their center and I'll walk away. Very, very cool. So just like an increased emphasis on those like different smaller objectives by way of having an add-on that helps to remind me when those things are going on has also been really, really big. Another thing that's been a bit of a game changer for me is in the settings. If you go to this social section, you can tick the box that says extra competitive. You prefer to play with players who are looking for higher levels of coordination, communication, and competitiveness. I think you should really only check this option if you are A, not new to the game, and B, genuinely want this, because like if you're relatively new or if this is kind of a casual game for you, I think without it ticked on, A, you're going to get faster matches, and B, you're going to get like more lighthearted, fun, you know, talk in your matches. But I was finding that I was getting like a level of inconsistency where like, you know, if I'm taking the game a little bit more seriously, I want the rest of the party to be taking it a little bit more seriously too. That's just the vibe that I would appreciate. And so with this, I do find that the communication is more frequently productive. I think there's less people raging, but there's more people that are just kind of, they want to win, right? So it's just a different like kind of attitude that they bring to the game. So if that's not your vibe, if you like the jokes and the memes and all of that sort of stuff, I recommend just like leaving it off. There's no harm. But I wanted a little bit more consistency. I wanted a little bit more of a competitive environment. I wanted, you know, when I said things out loud for people to respond to it. And that has, you know, helped improve the quality of my games overall. Win or lose, the games just feel better to play. And finally, the last thing, I feel like this should be pretty obvious, but I think one of my other shortcomings as a player was that I was not counter building enough. Again, being that sort of position 1 in Dota 2 kind of thing, I was kind of this mindset that like, I'm going to farm really efficiently, I'm going to get so far ahead on souls, and then if I just do the build and I scale my character properly, then like I should be good to go. That's just not the case. You kind of have to be aware of, what you are building and why. Like early game, for example, let's talk about this. Yes, there's extra regen, which can help you if you're taking like small amounts of damage over time, and it's very passive. You don't really have to think about it. These are like pros of it. But if you're in a lane against somebody like a Grey Talon who's going to be bursting you like over and over, then something like healing right is a little bit better, because like you get bursted down, you can like step away, you can heal back up, and then you're able to like still play the game a little bit more, right? That's just like an early game thing. As the game is progressing on, you sort of figure out, what is the enemy team building, what are like the threats that are sticking out, and you can start buying defensives based off that. If you think you're going to be CC'd a lot, reactive barrier is really good. If you think they have a lot of gun damage, like a haze maybe, metal skin is really, really helpful. Counterspell is particularly good against like, again, heavy CC things, but I think it's also particularly good into like melee comps because it just makes your parry better in general. Spirit resilience is pretty obvious. It's for the big spirit heavy comps, and debuff remover is also fairly obvious, especially if they are bringing things like anti-heal to the table. That really, really helps. Speaking of anti-heal, against like the Victors and the Calvins and those kind of heroes, Spirit Burn, massive. Against like Lady Geist, I have really enjoyed buying Silence Wave, because like she goes around a corner, she wants me to follow her so that she can do the big swap on me. Boom, you're silenced, I'm killing you, right? Just like thinking actively about the kind of problems that you're hopefully going to run into, not that you're already running into, but things that are going to start to crop up, will really, really help you. And like, I guess the other thing is that proactively building against these kind of things, it's not like you need to memorize every single item in the game. There are like a handful of items that you use for like each individual. There were like, I would say there are a couple of categories of items. There are items that you build that make you stronger, and you buy them because they're making you stronger. And then there's a category of items that you're buying because they help you deal with a particular situation, right? Learning and memorizing the different items that help you get out of particular situations is like not that tall of an order, right? And it's something you can learn over time, but it's definitely something that you wanna be proactive about. And since I've been a little bit more proactive about it, I think that my games are being more consistent. They're like less coin flippy, I would say. So yeah, I mean, this is obviously not to brag. I haven't even gone up a full rank yet, but I've been trying to think of ways that I could integrate Deadlock content back into the channel, and this was just like kind of the first thing I thought of. And in general, I'm kind of happy with my performance. I think that I've been doing a lot better. Like this game I literally just played, I was first in damage, and second had almost half of the damage that I had. Really was one of the things that helped to win that game for sure, although the Mo and Krill did do their thing as well. This game that I lost, like, sure, I lost it, but my damage is so crazy here compared to, like, the Seven and the Lash did their thing as well, but, you know, considering that I was on the losing team, Noah carried animals for 40 days and 40 nights. I figure I could spend a couple of afternoons doing the same. And, yeah, I just, I'm happy with the progress that I'm making, so I wanted to share that with everybody. I don't really know what to do in terms of content, because, like, I don't think the whole come watch my ranked journey is particularly interesting, because I don't think there's any reason you should care about my ranked journey in particular. But if I can make this about y'all in some way, like learning things for the sake of the community that I have, the community that I want to build, I think, that could be a little bit more lucrative, I guess. But you guys let me know. Maybe you guys have ideas of what you'd like to see, or maybe you just want to see like gameplay. I don't know. But I appreciate you watching and hanging out. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.